Well, hello, everybody. My name is Bob Rombach. I'm the founder of the We Are Network. That's Dan Heinrichs. He is the Dan, part of the Bob and Dan Show. Thank you for joining us here today. We've actually got some sports to talk about, and that's something
Yes.
that Dan and I really enjoy, along with all the geocaching stuff. We'll touch on that really quick. And today we are joined by a special guest. He is coming to us courtesy of his podcast alongside Spiteful. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. His name is Adam Hefty. He also did a lot of play-by-play for us on the We Are Bram channel. So you probably have seen his work in that regard. But Dan, how are you doing today?
Doing great after a pretty chilly weekend.
Yeah.
Not the greatest weather for Mother's Day. A nice day outside today, however, though, which I guess is what it is for a Monday. But yeah, not too bad, Bob. How are you
Yeah.
doing?
Well, I'm good, and I don't know what day it is, so it was just a nice day. It's crazy being this COVID stuff, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But I don't know. I think a lot of people, especially like I don't have like a schedule anymore, day-to-day schedule, so it does get like crazy for trying to remember and figure out. Like I have to check the home screen of my phone just to see the day of the week, not the date, but so it's crazy. So you do any geocaching this week?
A little bit. I was able to get out some over the weekend, and
Yeah.
there's a couple that I found over at the Rosedale Mall yesterday. And let me tell you, that was a surreal experience going there,
Hmm.
just because it's Sunday afternoon, about 5 o'clock. Normally, you figure this place is going to be packed, cars
Yeah.
all over. Nothing. I mean, literally, you don't see a car. There's nobody there. It makes the geocaching very easy. You don't have to worry about like some mall security guy coming over to question you about what are you doing digging around this pine tree or this light post. And no, it's easy to kind of get in and get out. And it's like, well, at least those two are now off the list. And when we get done with the lockdown, I don't have to worry about challenging the mall traffic for
There you
those.
go. We got to watch out for those muggles.
Ooh,
But
they're
yeah,
rough.
yeah, I had a similar experience last week. We went down to Woodbury to Tamarack Village, had a couple things, the old big Costco run.
Yep.
Went to Portillo's for lunch, which is a great place to go, by the way. And Portillo's, if you're watching, we're looking for sponsors. So your people can call my people. But anyway, but it's right across from Cabela's down there. And there were a lot of people like lined up because they were just they're doing the curbside pickup
Yep.
stuff. So it was totally surreal. I thought, it might be the opposite. I thought maybe the restaurant would be packed because it was just at lunchtime, but no, nothing. Like it is, I mean, surreal is, we use that word all the time, but it's the only word to kind of accurately, depict something like that. It's like out of a movie.
Yeah, you just don't expect such a consistently high traffic area to be completely devoid of
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
And even that area around Rosedale, there's so many restaurants and
Yeah.
all the shops and everything. It's like, well, I have no problem making a left turn here because there's just no cars. It
Yeah.
was, yeah, very, very strange.
It reminds me of like, have you seen I Am Legend? Do you remember that movie where New
I
York is
do.
just like the grass is growing up, in the cracks of Fifth Avenue? Like
Yep.
it's like that kind of surreal. But we're all, we all have seen it, so I'm not breaking new ground here. But it is crazy, but it does make for some easy geocaching, urban geocaching anyway. So let's take a quick look at the leaderboard because we want to get to our special guest. Here we go. Our family was really slacking last week, so this is right now. We still have the full week to go, but let's go back to the previous week and. Dun, 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 dun. What do you know? It's your parents again, just smoking everybody. I barely even read. I got one.
You got, well, it's good to
That
at least go get the one to
got
avoid the
one.
goose egg.
I guess so. But and you got I don't know, probably 6 or 7. It looks
Yeah, I
like.
think it's about 6 or 7.
Yeah, mine. This was interesting though. I want to show you this one. It was a park in Cushing, which is a little bit south of our house, and you'd scroll down here, and I just thought this was funny, and I noticed this in the logbook when I signed it. Found it 5/9. That's when my wife and I found it, and I was just looking through the logbook, and a year ago to the date, Big Slicer found it five nine
Nice.
nineteen. Your mom and dad found it. So I thought that was kind of fun. So
that is kind of cool when you see the log, and you had sent me that picture of the log itself. And
yeah,
when you recognize a name out there, it is kind of neat to see
yes,
that.
sure is. Very good. Well, let's, without further ado, bring this hoser on. He's done a lot for the We Are Network. He's a fantastic play-by-play guy for We Are Bram, and when we were doing We Are Bram, and he's got a podcast with his buddy Andy called Alongside Spiteful. Please welcome Adam Hefty. Hi, Adam. How are you?
Good. How about yourself? How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good. You guys, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to just ask you, let's get into it. What is Alongside Spiteful? What's that podcast? It's a strange name, my man. What does it mean?
Well, Alongside Spiteful, it's kind of a combination of two things where I'm alongside because whenever Andy would introduce me on a broadcast, he would say Andy Beckstrom alongside Adam Hefty. And I joke that people are going to start thinking that that's my actual name is alongside, and he's just spiteful. So we just went with Alongside Spiteful.
Beautiful. Well played.
Yes.
Well played. Good stuff. So you guys have been doing that podcast for, I don't know, not quite a year, maybe 6-8 months or so.
It was preseason, I believe, because I think I remember talking about Antonio Brown and that fiasco. That seems like just
that's 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
I know, right? Everything is just drawn out.
That's crazy. So preseason. And how can people find your podcast?
Well, they can find us on Apple Podcast. Overcast is what I listen to sometimes. Also, Google, I believe, has it as well. So basically, anywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, I believe, is on there as well.
Very good. You guys are very entertaining. What would you call your style? It's not like, how would you define your style?
It's, as I'm sure a lot of you know, there's about 1.5 billion sports podcasts. So I'm trying to think of what sets us apart. We're not totally unique. I like to describe it as kind of a barstool look at sports.
Okay.
We're not very smart. Per se, but we make up for it by being dumb. So,
okay,
there you go.
Sounds like you're a great. I mean, you could go on any sports.
We're trying to find we're trying to find our niche.
That's funny. Good stuff. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk some sports today, you guys, because we actually have some news. We'll talk about. Let's get some thoughts from you guys on the NFL draft. Now, you two are Packer fans. I am a Vikings fan. And so that's interesting. The funny thing is I live in Wisconsin. You two live in Minnesota, so that's kind of funny. But we can talk about the schedule. We can talk about the draft. There's some Major League Baseball news happening, kind of breaking today. It might be breaking down also today. So, but at least the gears are turning, and maybe there will be something this summer for baseball. So, Dan, what do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, Neil, with the NFL, they had their schedule release show last weekend. I guess I got to hand it to the NFL just in general here. I mean, they've consistently just kept on going. I wouldn't say like nothing's happened,
right? But
they didn't delay the draft. They've released the schedule. Like, this is all going according to their normal off-season plan. Now, they're not going to have the standard, hey, this guy looked great in the organized team activities in June, because those aren't going to exist. But now, like, the draft is wound down, so now you've got all these crazy rumors floating around, like, where's Cam Newton going to end up? Or the Jets interested in Joe Flacco, and like all these people like trying to get an edge in fantasy when everyone knows, like, well, this is great to talk about now, but like one preseason ACL injury, and that's going to negate 2 months worth of fantasy articles. So it's something fun to talk about. And it's a little bit of reality in our surreal sports world right now.
Yeah, it is kind of an anchor, though. At least there's like, we can go to NFL.com and look at our teams and see a September 13th start. I mean, that's normal. So that's kind of nice. Adam, how are your Packers stacking up? Did you examine their schedule yet?
Oh, yikes. If you look at, I looked at the first 11 weeks and I see 6 potential losses at least. I mean, they go to Minneapolis. That's going to be tough no matter what. They go to New Orleans, Tampa, Houston, and Indy, and San Francisco. It's going to be a rough start to the year. Now, the last part of the season, it's a little bit more manageable, but you have to get through that gauntlet.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, coming out of there healthy is going to be a win, I believe.
Yeah, you look at those weeks 6 through 9 there after the bye week, where it's at the Tom Brady's, then at the Texans, then playing the Vikes again, and at the 49ers, like on 3.5 days rest out there.
That's true. Look at
vicious.
that.
It's going to be vicious. So yeah, you get out of that stretch going 2-2, and you're feeling pretty good. Like the first 4 games, okay, that's going to be, what is it, at Vikes, at Saints. Who knows about what home field advantage is going to look like in September?
Yeah, I think the Packers. Weird. Yeah, I think the Packers play the entire playoff bracket from last year, essentially.
Right.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the Vikings. I haven't deep dived as much as you guys, but it's a tough start. I think. Let's see, Packers playoff team. Who all made the Texans are a heck of a team. At Seahawks as usual for the Vikings. Like, this is a tough start for the Vikings too, but nothing like what you guys have. That's a brutal stretch. Well,
that first 5 for the Vikes, though, that's no tough. Joke.
No, that's not.
I mean, you've got, because the Colts, I mean, they loaded up a little bit.
Yeah.
The Titans, they went to the AFC Finals last year. I mean, obviously, the Pack there, that's a rival. At Houston, you never know when Deshaun Watson's going to throw at his 45-point fantasy game. At Seattle, you could be looking at 1-4 right there, and that's tough.
That's tough.
Really a tough start.
Tough. I have a little more optimism than a 1-4 start, but not much, because I really have no idea what the Vikings are going to be like this year, because it's like they lost so many people, especially defensively. I just don't know how they're going to stack up in early season without like a full training camp, without OTAs getting all. I mean, Rick Spielman had 27 draft picks, but that's tough when you can't get them in the building and start putting in and physically like teaching these guys and coaching these guys. So it'll be interesting. I think the Vikings will probably be a pretty good team by the end of the year. And if they can just keep pace with the Packers, I think it's a 2-horse race, don't you guys?
Yeah, I think so. I don't see the Lions or the Bears competing much at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, until proven otherwise, it's going to be the Pack or the Vikings. And I was looking at some of the Vegas odds on will Team X make the playoffs. And the Packers and the Vikings were identical, like a slight favorite to, yes, they will make the playoffs. I think it was -130 for them making the playoffs. And so a slight underdog to miss, but I guess Vegas is probably saying, yeah, one of them's going to go 10-6 and win the division. The other one's going to go 9-7 and get a wild card.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, at this point, a little over 500. So who do they have as locks? San Francisco?
Yeah, you're like
Tampa
San
Bay?
Francisco. Kansas City was just ridiculous. Like, will they make the playoffs? -900. So you basically, okay, I'm going to wager on.
If you want to crown them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, the obvious ones that dominated last year. I didn't even look at Tampa. Like, they got some ridiculous Super Bowl odds once they signed a quarterback who's our age, Bob, and then a tight end who's got 250,000 miles on his odometer. But probably tell I'm a little more pessimistic on the Bucs' chances.
You're down on the Bucs
than most.
I think Mike Evans is legit. They have a pretty good outside game, but Tom Brady is about 80 years old, so he didn't have the greatest of seasons last year. Does he continue his downward trend, or does he give the Bucs enough? Right. Is basically the question.
That'll be a fun one to kind of keep track of. Like, will he be a new stadium, a new chapter in his life, and all this kind of stuff? And he takes such good care of his body. Like, I know he's our age, but he's probably playing like a 28-year-old out there. So I don't know. Or do you guys think he's lost a lot from then?
I think it's impossible to really tell. Because I mean, it was a slight downward turn last year. It wasn't anything significant.
It's kind of like Aaron Rodgers kind of took a turn the last couple of years, I would say, like mobility-wise especially. Yep. Obviously, that's totally different with Tom Brady, but I don't know. It's going to be fun. He's going to be in Florida. He's going to I don't know. I don't think it'd tarnish his legacy at all if he had a clunker of a year. Do you?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean,
right.
He's earned the right to give it a shot, and if he goes 6-10 and hangs it up, well, fine. I mean, you look at Brett Favre's last year, and that was.
I don't want to.
Kind of, you can't make me.
Right. But yeah, it may have been 1 year too long. But I mean, why not? Why not go for it when you're that close the year before and you've been indestructible forever? Like, why not? We'll do it one more time and see what happens. So it's fun watching Brady play. I mean, he's learned how to play old. Being mobile now,
and he has the weapons. I mean, Mike Evans is awesome. A legit top 10 wide receiver. So I mean, there are accesses to success there in Tampa.
I agree. All right. So any closing thoughts on the draft? Dan and I talked about it a little bit. What were your thoughts about your Packers draft choices, Mr. Hefty? Because I was perplexed and still am, but in a good way.
I am slightly more optimistic than a lot of Packer fans. I'm not, I didn't like the draft. I didn't like it, but I didn't absolutely hate it. I thought they reached a little bit on just about every single pick. I don't hate the Jordan Love pick because, let's face it, Aaron Rodgers is 36 years old. I mean, getting an heir apparent isn't a bad idea. Mm-hmm. I loved the A.J. Dillon pick. I just thought it was a little early. I like that they picked up offensive linemen. I don't know if I like it in the 6th round. John Runyon he was pretty good at Michigan, and that's not bad to say. But I just feel like they reached on just about everybody just a little bit. So, I mean, I don't think that, everybody wanted a receiver.
Yeah.
And I agree. You didn't need a playmaking receiver. You already have one of those. You need somebody who is a threat on the other side to take some stress off of.
Like a number 2. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you could have gotten one in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th round. You just didn't do it. I don't understand why.
Well, did they pick one up in college free agency afterwards?
I didn't hear of anything.
It was so deep. I mean, maybe there's some gems down there, but I was super surprised. You think the Packers need a wide receiver, even a number 2 wide receiver, more than they need a number 2 quarterback, especially a 1st rounder. And they could have picked up a quarterback in 2, 3, 4 and kept Aaron Rodgers happier than what I would imagine he is. Have you guys seen any reaction from him? Or I saw Favre said something, but has he ever come out and really talked about anything? Dan, have you heard anything?
I've not heard anything from Rodgers himself. And I mean, all the pundits went out there right away, and you're talking about how it's a redo of 2005, and now they're pushing Rodgers out the door just the way he pushed Favre out the door. And it's pretty easy to draw those parallels. And who knows, maybe that's what's going to happen in 2 years. And as a Packers fan overall, I mean, I hope it gets to that point where you've got a guy who's that good, who's ready to take the reins away from a Hall of Famer, and you just kind of go to that next awesome quarterback. I mean, it's a great problem to have.
Well, you got to stop doing that. It's a bunch of crap. You should ride Aaron Rodgers until he doesn't want to be there anymore, and send him off, like he should be sent off with his legacy intact and just exactly how he wants to go out, even if it's, his arms falling off, he's lefty now.
Vulnerable for the next 3 years or so.
That's the way I would do it, you guys.
But until he's 48, and
I've heard that LaFleur is trying to change the offense from pass heavy to run heavy, which isn't a terrible idea in Green Bay in December.
No,
so getting an A.J. Dillon really could be a great pickup along with either Aaron Jones or Jamal Williams. I'd rather have Aaron Jones, as Merrick would love to see, but they're both up for contract after this year, I believe. So one of them is going to go. So you're going to have either Jones or Williams and A.J. Dillon, which is a pretty good backfield. So you might have that Derrick Henry type runner in A.J. Dillon and that offense, which is well suited for Lambeau Field in late December.
Well, it makes sense theoretically, but there's people that are, there's people to think about too. And Aaron Rodgers has never really come across to me as like team first. I don't know, maybe, and I'm not trying to be a jerk Vikings fan. I think that's kind of I think he is team first, but I also feel like he's going to be slighted for this because I know he did say he wants to finish his career in Green Bay and leave a legacy there and all that kind of stuff. But this kind of thing just seems like it would be one of those wedges that could, cause that schism that we talked about with Favre so often. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that Rodgers is going to have the same kind of drama that Favre had.
No.
People forget that Favre had been hinting at retirement for who knows how many
5 years
before they even actually drafted Aaron Rodgers, and they played for 5 years after that. So, I mean, they basically were forced to go and get the heir apparent, and then it just happened that Rodgers fell 21 spots in the draft.
Yeah.
Here's a guy who could have been the number 1 overall pick, and he just fell all the way down to the pack. And it's like, well, you can't pass that up.
No.
Now, I don't think Jordan Love was ever going to be the number 1 overall pick, but yeah, I mean, you figure Rodgers he'd understand the situation. I mean, it's the way he came into the league, and it's a business. You look at Brady. I mean, he kind of got forced out of New England by them just not re-signing him. So he's like, well, I want to keep playing. So Tampa, here I come.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine. It probably stung a little bit. I mean, as great of an athlete as I am, I totally understand.
Rec league softball.
You have to know. Yeah, you have to know in the back of your mind that this day is going to happen. You're just never really prepared. I assume that day will come. You're just never prepared for it. And he's 36 years old. It's about that time. It probably stung at first, but I think he's a smart guy. I'm sure he figured it out, and they know the Packers need him for a couple more years to bridge that divide between him and then Jordan Love. I mean, in theory.
And then it's hit the road, cross the river, and put the purple on for a couple of years.
Yeah, get a steakhouse in Appleton, and you'll be fine.
Well, if we're going to keep the parallels going, I don't know. I mean. Before the draft, he was saying, not to prolong this too much more, but before the draft, Aaron Rodgers was saying, he was being asked, what would you like to see drafted? And he said, in the 15 years I've been here, we've never drafted a skill guy in the first round. Well, they did just draft a skill guy in the first round, but, that's kind of just like, I don't know. I guess I would feel a little bit slighted if I were him, but, like you guys said, though, it is a business, and he will have to just get over it. I mean, he's the millions of dollars will cushion his fall, but
very true.
So, all right.
So Bob,
go ahead.
Yeah, Bob, we've talked a lot of Packers here. So I kind of want to talk current Vikings for you.
Oh boy. Okay.
And I know, or at least I think there was a Kirk Cousins extension given this offseason, right?
Yes. 2 more years. So he's with the Vikings for 3 years. 3 more years.
So he's extended. What about Zimmer? Is he in the last year of his deal?
Yeah, Zimmer and Spielman, I think, are both in their last year. So
So this is really put up or shut up time, isn't it, for these guys?
It kind of is, and a lot of that is on Kirk Cousins. I would say your quarterback and your coach always seem to be connected, and this is where they've gone all in with the coach, the quarterback, and the GM. I feel like they're feeling pretty secure, and I think Ziggy Wilf is a really loyal kind of a guy who will overlook a lot. But that being said, I think if you fire Zimmer, who are you going to get that's better? I really like him, and I think his guys like him. I think the right guys like him. I think a lot of guys can't deal with the way he coaches and leads. But I think he's got a lot of the right guys in there. And he and Rick Spielman seem to get along pretty well as far as what I can tell. And Spielman, I mean, we already have like 14 picks next year that he traded into next year. So to me, that kind of says he's fairly secure that he's going to be extended. And I would say Zimmer would be extended too. So that's my take. I hope so. I like the job that they're doing.
Can I ask you a question, Bob, about the Vikings draft?
Okay.
Are you concerned about the lack of offensive line that was picked? Because that seemed to be their biggest hole. I mean, the Smith brothers were getting pressure on a 3-man rush. It was, I mean, I loved seeing it, but I'm sure, I mean, it's concerning. You could have all the wide receivers you want. If Kirk Cousins doesn't have time to get the ball to him, to Justin Jefferson or Thielen, you're not going to win many games.
No, well, that's the thing. Like, what's the way the NFL is now? It's like, it's on the edges and it's through the air, and we happen to have a heck of a good running back, and they've kind of stocked up there and not on the O-line, which is obviously, I think everybody agreed that was where the Vikings needed to address, like maybe their number one need, and they didn't really do it. I think they were probably primed to do it. They did in, maybe 5th or 6th round, they drafted somebody. I think that was the highest that they did draft. The St. John's guy was on the board right before the Vikings picked, and he got picked by Jacksonville. I wonder if the Vikings had their eye on him. That would have been an awesome story for him.
That would have been a home run pick.
Yeah, 100%. So I wonder if they would have gone with him had he been around. But I think the Vikings just, let the draft come to them. And I would have liked to have seen some O-line higher, but I don't know who I would rather have not gotten. Like, they got a stud safety or a cornerback. They got a stud wide receiver early. I mean, I can't really fault them for who they did pick instead of an O-lineman. And, hopefully those guys take a step up, but, that's no guarantee. The Saints just cut a guy like this. Can't remember his name right now, but like 2 years in a row, like all pro or Pro Bowl selection. They cut him because they had to pay somebody so much money. I don't remember. Oh, what's his face? The trick quarterback. What's his name?
Oh, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Taysom Hill. They paid him $21 million, so they had to cut their guard.
Wow.
So hopefully the Vikings can still move around and get some of that stuff. They've got plenty of draft picks for next year if they want to give up some of that, equity. And I don't know. I can't imagine they're set at guard or tackle. I can't imagine they are, but it is what it is. In this NFL, there's always going to be that glaring hole on every team, you would think. What would you say the Packers' glaring obvious hole is? Is it the number 2 wide receiver, or is it something else?
I would like the secondary more balanced.
Yeah.
They have some guys, but Jair Alexander is fine. Savage is fine. Yeah, there's a lot of guys out there that are fine.
They'll flash and then they'll
You're waiting for that guy to go from fine to whoa.
Yeah.
Exactly. They got rid of Martinez, which is a lot of tackles.
Yeah.
So there's holes.
So I don't think you can really have that complete team in the NFL. Now the Vikings, it's up to the coaches to kind of scheme and make sure that the problem is Kirk Cousins is really good at throwing deep, and obviously to throw deep, you have to have time, and he's not exactly fleet of foot. Like, he's not a great scrambler. So, but he still had a really good statistical year last year with the offensive line that most of them are back. So you'd like to see that continuity, and hopefully they all start playing together better. So, that's as a Vikings fan, that's kind of what you have to hope for.
What
the cavalry's not coming.
Every team, it seems, has at least one weakness. Even the Chiefs or the Niners, they have a spot where you can definitely get them, and it's a matter of if they have a key injury at a position that they're already weak, then that's going to be a major issue for them.
Right.
Well, that's what I came into the draft with the Packers. Like, there's not any glaring holes per se, but nobody's really happy with anything.
It's like everything could be upgrade. Almost everything could go from a B+ to an A or something like that. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the Vikings and the Packers are two pretty good NFL teams, like playoff teams. So, they're as complete probably as you can expect. Like, we drafted – who did the Lions draft in the first pick? Do you guys remember? It was to replace – It was I think it was a cornerback to replace their
Okuda?
Darius Slade, right?
Yeah.
So, did they get better? No, they kind of just put a first rounder in for a first rounder. And I feel like Minnesota did that too. We lost Stephon Diggs, so we picked up hopefully a good wide receiver. So I don't think we got better with that pick. I think he's going to be a heck of a good player, but you still need those other guys who were the 7th, 8th, or 7th rounders, the 6th rounders from last year that stuck around and made the team to take that next step. And that's probably like the San Francisco, the 49ers last year kind of came out of nowhere because they kind of stunk, but it was a lot of the same guys from the year before that just got better. And that's kind of what we're all looking for.
I think the Niners in 18, weren't they really high on Jimmy Garoppolo, and he got hurt, and it was just kind of the whole season was just a mess after that. So then they did fly under the radar, and they got Garoppolo back, and they won a few games, and they just got the mojo going. And you see in football, probably more than almost any other sport, that when a team starts winning games and starts thinking, hey, we're really good, and they turn out to be really good. And on the other side, you have teams that lose a few games and there's turmoil in the locker room, and so great, we're 2-5 and I go get beat around for another 3.5 hours. This ain't gonna be fun.
The Lions seem to be that team every year. Like they're always pretty good. They always take bad L's. Like they're always losing to the Packers in some kind of horrendous fashion. I mean, it's pretty bad. And the Vikings, they lose to them.
I love Matthew Stafford.
I do too. I really do.
He's such a good quarterback. He just hasn't had. I mean, there's Kelvin Johnson.
Yeah.
And Golden Tate, I guess. I mean,
that's a pretty big drop off.
Yeah. I mean, they're that team where you're like, they could sneak in now. They could get a few wins in a row and get 10-6, maybe sneak into the playoffs. But I liken them to the Indiana Hoosiers in the Big Ten in football.
Okay, yeah.
They're like, they have the pieces. Will they be able to get over that hump? And they just never do.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost a little Minnesota Gophers where the Gophers have a little something going, and then they lose a few games and the knives come out. It's like, oh, here we go again. And now PJ Fleck has completely flipped that script.
Flecknetized, baby. Holy cow.
Until it's a blizzard. Until there's a blizzard at TCF Bank Stadium. I'm just saying, Wisconsin murdered murdered the Gophers.
Was that last year or the year before? I can't remember. What happened 2 years ago? Oh, I was on the sideline. I was on the sideline. I got to see. Okay, go ahead.
What about
go ahead?
What about the 14 times before that?
We don't talk about that. That's before. That's BF before Fleck. Okay, we don't. That doesn't count. No, but every stinking week, there's 1 or 2 4-stars committing to PJ Fleck. Like they're gonna be like, you think of like Oregon or like Gonzaga in basketball, where all of a sudden this team just starts becoming like a blue blood. I hope. I mean, obviously, it's way too early to say that, but I mean, I'm so excited for the Gophers this year. And the Minnesota-Wisconsin rivalry is going to be huge. I mean. It's going to mean something like from here on out for a long time.
I've always said that there's no reason why Minnesota can't be a Wisconsin. There's no reason. They have
Wisconsin's another great example.
Yeah, they basically have the same climate of athletics, really. I mean, they're all the same benefits you have of being a Big Ten school, the academics, the money, the place where you are. It's like the Twins and Brewers. They're the same team.
Yeah.
Why is Wisconsin doing it better than Minnesota?
Yeah.
Barry Alvarez.
Yeah, that's it.
The Gophers didn't have a Barry Alvarez.
Right.
That's it.
And now maybe they do. It's not Barry by any means, but I love the guy. I listen. I don't know if you guys listen to podcasts. I listened to a guy named John Gordon, his podcast. He had PJ Fleck on. It's all about leadership and positive and that kind of stuff. He was on there and he just blew me away with his philosophy and how he always he has these standards, and like people are attracted to that, and the right people are attracted to what, he's going to attract the people that he wants. And he loves his guys. Like he loves them. It's not just a program to him. And I think the guys and their families love that. So that's why he's been able to pull people from Chicago and Georgia and like these places. Like what? Why didn't they go to Wisconsin, or why didn't they go to Georgia or something down there?
Well, the Big Ten West is as a whole has been recruiting better.
Yeah.
Scott Frost in Lincoln, Wisconsin, they've always kind of hung out in the high 30s. Now they're getting down to the low 20s. They're recruiting better as well. So it's not the whipping boy of the Big Ten anymore.
No. See, I thought I know I saw, maybe it was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, the rankings for the 2021 class was like Ohio State was number 1, Wisconsin was number 5. This is nationally. Wisconsin's number 5 and Minnesota's number 6 nationally.
Yeah.
Like, that's nuts.
We have to take that with a grain of salt because
no, we don't.
A lot of those signings come in February.
Right.
But it's still encouraging.
Well, I've never seen Minnesota that high.
Yeah, most of the time it's like you're 6th in the Big Ten. It's like, great.
Yes.
This is really doing well.
100%. Yep, that's right. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say that stream of 4 stars that keep committing to the Gophers, it could be really a lot of fun between just Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, you get Nebraska back in the mix, and that is going to be a really fun division.
I'm getting goosebumps, man.
Oh yeah, those intra-state games, just that nice border battles in Minnesota. You've got a lot of them. So
I think we have like 4 or 5 trophy games. It's crazy.
Yep.
But none matter more than the Axe. Maybe Floyd of Rosedale. Yeah. Those two are like the big ones for Minnesota. So
absolutely.
And they lost them both. They had 2 losses last year, and they lost both those darn trophies. So we're coming for you, boys. Don't worry. All right. So we've got a few more minutes left. Let's switch gears and talk about the Major League Baseball proposal that kind of came out today. I'm looking at this New York Times kind of encapsulation of it. What they're saying is this is coming from the owners now. This was what they kind of proposed an 82 game season. So that's basically half a year. Why 82 and not 81, I wonder. Expanded playoff field and designated hitter for all games, even in the National League where they have pitchers hit. The sides would have to agree on a salary structure. Well, anyway, let's talk about that at a macro level, and then we can kind of get into the nitty gritty and if it's actually going to work out or not. Got a tweet, ready here from Phil Hughes, who's a pitcher. I think he's a pitcher for the Twins, isn't he? Or at least he
used to pitch for them.
He used to pitch for the Twins and the Yankees.
Yep.
See what he said, and I think it kind of encapsulates the players' side. But what do you guys think? I mean, are you optimistic that something's going to happen here in early July to get half a season in? Do you think it's going to happen or not?
I think I'm optimistic, and it kind of varies day to day, and more days are optimistic now. And I think of some of the other things that are going on in the sports world where I think last weekend there was a UFC fight, and this weekend NASCAR is coming back, and one of the major European soccer leagues is starting up, and next week PGA golf is starting up. So things are actually getting going, and let's assume these go without any kind of a major hitch. Mm-hmm. That feeds right into what they're calling spring training 2.0 in June. And then you can gear up for that 4th of July start of the baseball season. And assuming everything goes well and you don't have any major outbreaks, I think we're a long way away from big crowds going to games because it's too bad because both the Twins and Brewers would be pretty fun this year.
I'm looking forward to the Twins season.
Yeah, but I'm optimistic that something's going to happen.
What about you, Adam?
I would love to be optimistic about it. I really would. I mean, I would bet on turtles racing at this point. I just need competition. Yeah. But I love everything about it. I mean, I guess I don't love it, but the 82 game season, it's not perfect, but you get a good sense of what the season is going to be after that amount of games every year anyway. Yeah. And what I was most excited about, I don't know if it had it on that article, but they were talking about geographic distancing teams.
So sorry,
you
love that? You love that?
I love it. I mean, this is the exact opportunity for that, where you can have the Cubs, Twins, Brewers, White Sox, Tigers,
St. Louis,
St. Louis, all of them in the same division.
That'd be fun.
I mean, this is your opportunity to do that. And I'm a purist. I love pitchers hitting because it adds to the strategy. I do, but I'm willing to, forego that for this year if we're
Yeah.
able to just get something going.
Right.
And fans in the stands, I mean, I would rather have them in there, but there's a draw. I think there's a draw to a game of baseball without fans. You get the sounds of the game, which is just nostalgic as heck. I mean, the ball hitting the bat, the ball in the mitt, the calls on the field. There's
Sandlot baseball.
Yeah, there's a certain nostalgia, I think, is the best way to say it. It's to that kind of game.
All that dugout chatter when the pitchers get screwed.
Oh, yeah.
I would hear some of that stuff.
That is awesome. Yes, it does talk about that, and it says, to your point, Adam, to minimize travel, teams would play only against divisional rivals as well as teams in the corresponding geographic division of the opposite league. So yeah, we would have like a Midwestern league, I would imagine. That'd be probably like 7-8 teams deep. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they divide it all up. But yeah, we'd have the 2 Chicago teams. We'd have Milwaukee, Minnesota, Kansas City, St. Louis. That would make sense to me. Is there any other team that would be in there?
Well, I guess if you combine the 2 centuries, probably like Pittsburgh to Kansas City, maybe.
Yeah. I kind of made
longest trip.
Yeah, for one of our episodes, I kind of made an idea like this already.
Okay.
And I had the hardest time trying to figure out where Pittsburgh would go.
Yeah, that's a tough
one. I didn't know where to put them. I mean, there's so many Eastern teams.
There's
so many Midwestern teams. Where do you put Pittsburgh?
You're the NFL. You put them in the West.
Yeah.
They can play Colorado 82 times.
The West Virginia Mountaineers are in the Big 12 somehow. I don't know.
Right. So they will expand playoffs as far as teams. It would go to 14 teams from 10, which is what it is currently. So adding 2 additional wild cards in each league. Let's see. It does go into, I think that would just be a 1-game playoff too for those wild card games. I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic that something is going to happen. I think they're kind of far apart in terms of coming to an agreement. Here's that tweet. I just popped it up. Oh, no, I didn't. Learn how to do technology, Robert. Hold on a second. Well, anyway, I'll read it to you and then I'll figure out how to work this thing. But it's Phil Hughes. He says, I know everyone wants baseball back this year, but players won't be strong-armed into unsafe work conditions and unfair compensation. Okay, I get part of it. I also the unfair compensation thing. That kind of rubs me the wrong way. But here, I put it up over my picture, so we can still look at you guys' pretty faces. Yeah, and then Jake replied, "Unfair compensation? Are you kidding me? These guys make millions. How is that unfair?" And then Phil responded, "Fair is relative." So yeah, we're not going to see breaking news on ESPN tonight that they've come to an agreement, but it always starts like this, right? Labor negotiations.
Well, owners want a 50-50 revenue split.
Right.
And that's never really what's been going on in baseball.
Yeah.
So they're going to work out the kinks. I think eventually there will be. I don't know if it's going to be 4th of July. It might be a little later, but
yeah, I
think something will get done. Because I think baseball is probably the safest sport to come back. There's not as much human contact. He's not wrong about unsafe working conditions. You have to make sure everything's safe. Players, managers, stadium employees, just everything that goes along with it and everybody that works to get the baseball games going.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done. But I think eventually it will be taken care of.
Very good. I think one of the options was you can either play at your home stadium or where you do spring training. Where does Pittsburgh do spring training? Maybe they could join whatever. It's somewhere south. It's either Arizona or Florida.
Yeah,
I think they're a Florida team.
Are they Florida?
I don't bet on that, but I would say they're Florida. Hold Adam back.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I mean, that's
I barely know Milwaukee's in Phoenix, so I don't.
Very good. Well, any other thoughts on this? I too am pretty optimistic that there will be baseball, and that'll be huge because I think the NFL has gone off without like Dan said earlier, like without a hitch, kind of without like missing a beat. I think
it is the easiest part of the NFL season to get this stuff through.
Right. They did a good job with the draft, just everybody from their homes. That was kind of fun and novel, but you're right. It's the easiest part. So I think if the Major League Baseball can show how something can be done safely and still put a good product out there, I think that really bodes well for the fall. As long as, like, I think Dan, you said, like, no major, backsliding or, big outbreaks somewhere. Because I really believe if there's no football, then you think the country is divided now. Like, I feel like we'll all be on the same team.
For gosh sakes, stay away from the beaches so we can have our football. Just stay home.
So, yeah, I think if the NFL or college football, it would go hand in hand probably. If they don't happen, I think, I just think that would be pretty devastating too, because I don't know, that NFL, everybody just kind of loves the NFL. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Think MLB getting this right can make things happen for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think that, if it goes bad, then that's going to be really, really a bad sign for the NFL. And then I guess I don't even know when. I'm sure the NBA and the NHL are talking about restarting their seasons too. And are they going to try to start before baseball to kind of grab the sports headlines, or will they start after to kind of see how it goes with those? I think some of the NBA teams, as long as they're in a state that allows facilities to be open, that they've been able to practice in a limited fashion. So they may be a little closer to returning than baseball would be. And who knows how you start that season back up? Like, the regular season was almost done.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. You might just would you pick up where you left off and just had a really long season into July, or with the finals being like early August or something?
Yeah. Or else you could just have like best of 3 playoff series and almost like a NCAA tournament style, which would kind of be exciting.
Ooh, that would be fun. Everybody's
got it. Yeah, we finally got it. We did it, everybody.
Yeah, the Wolves solved it. All right, that's a good one to end on then. All right, you guys, I think we do need to end this one. I had a blast with you two. Thank you for joining us, Adam. And don't forget, alongside Spiteful is his podcast with Andy Beckstrom. You can find it on iTunes and Stitcher and all of the places that you find your favorite podcasts. Do listen to it. It's fun. And Andy and him have a good vibe together. So Dan and I don't have much to promote. We're just here because we're bored. And but thanks, Adam, for coming on. Would you mind doing it once in a while with us?
Oh, absolutely. This is a great time. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Yeah. So I guess that's going to do it for Adam Hefty and Dan Heinrichs. My name is Bob Rombach. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you next time.